Hi, and then just to let everybody know, we do have some fresh fruit and some snacks out where we had food yesterday. So please go ahead, help yourself, get a.
We'll be doing a presentation called The Sacred Laws of the Indigenous Nations, and I got a bio I'd like to read for Lexi here. First, I want to thank Lexi because I've been to his prayer ceremonies and got some good healing from his tokeca. And anytime Grandpa Roy needed help, he was always there to help us. The doctor on Grandpa Roy, and it really helped out a lot. So I want to thank him and his helpers. Richard Mooskamp is a member of the Oaye Luta band of the Tituan Lakota Nation. Richard is an enrolled member of the Oaye tribe as Bernard Richard Chips Mooskamp Jr. Richard is born to Bernard Chips Mooskamp Sr. of Oaye band and Esther Standing Elk of Rosebud band of Lakota Tituan Nation. Richard is the youngest of 3 children: Evelyn Sylvia Mooskamp Blue Lakes, deceased; Elsie Mooskamp Torres, deceased; and Bernard Richard Chips Mooskamp Jr. Richard is the 5th generation healer of the woppe Chips, 1837-1916. Richard's great grandfather was James Chips Mooskamp, 4th son of woppe Chips, 1869-1949. Richard's grandfather, Samuel Chips Mooskamp, 1891 to 1973. Samuel was Richard's teacher and mentor for the spiritual healings and praying ways. Richard was born and grew up in Woppe, South Dakota. Richard attended school at the Woppe Day School, also known as Crazy Horse School, attended Oaye Luta College and received a bachelor's degree in human services and received a master's degree in mental health counseling, schools counseling from Waka University in Mission, South Dakota in 2014. Richard Mooskamp's Chief Executive Officer provides the foundation guiding force for the growth of Oaye Luta by WKT. His vision and leadership led to the WKT becoming incorporated in South Dakota in 2006 and is a current nonprofit status. Mr. Love Mooskamp's works and activism is rooted in one word: love for the people, the children, and the future generation. He champions religious freedom, cultural rights and awareness, protection of sacred rights, the environment, economic and just livelihood, education, and other human rights. Richard also received an honorary doctorate in humanities from New College in San Francisco, California in 1999. He has also worked as a social worker, substance abuse counselor, traditional spiritual consultant, and as a cultural advisor with several different agencies, reservations, and projects, both in South Dakota and outside the state. These are some of the groups he has worked with: the International Indian Treaty Council, Casey Foundation, Friendship House Association of American Indians Incorporated, Native American Health Clinic, and the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Mr. Mooskamp provided expert testimony to the Senate Subcommittee on Indian Affairs to support the enactment of the Freedom of Indian Religious Act in 1978. He was also one of 2 spiritual leaders to advocate for Lakota traditional sweat lodge to be implemented for the South Dakota State Penitentiary in 1976. Mr. Mooskamp has been formally trained to lead cultural ceremonies based on knowledge of Lakota traditional healing practices, oral history, stories, and songs. He provides spiritual guidance based on Lakota religious beliefs, cultural teachings. His knowledge of healing practices include plant properties and remedies for use in healing ceremonies to prevent, treat, and recover from illness. He lives with his family in Pine Ridge, South Dakota. Richard is a proud grandfather, father, and husband for 41 years. His wife, Arvala, takes care of their home while Richard does his work in the community, nationally and internationally community. So let me give you a round of applause for Lexi here. We thank you for being here.
on me talk with you, to on Shigalaka, the Kalila Yomo Pilo, Nakon Mitrushka, Wopila Waki, Oaye, Mitrushka, the home Waka Transport, Chiawaki, and Wexi, which I'm care, Now, basically, we were going over here. I want to thank my relatives for coming, and it's a great honor to be invited here. I want to thank my Tashi, Mr. Tyan. All my life, I knew him as Popcorn, so I didn't really need his first name for a long time. So, I thank my nephew Leon for a great introduction. My nephew was helper for my chair, Roy Stone, for many years. Every time I see my nephew, I immediately remember my older brother. I have two older brothers that I worked with in ceremony for many years, over 40 years. Mr. Two Dogs, Sheila Two Dogs, and my older brother, Roy Stone. Roy went home a couple of years ago. Sheila, do our best to help our people. My mother was a young lady back in 1930s, and they said doctors told her she couldn't have a child, so she adopted Roy Stone when he was a very young man, and that was her chief sheep. She wanted to raise a young boy. So Roy was had many parents, many loves, and I was born in 1956, and I grew up around Roy, and around 1965, my older brother Roy came to Wambali to my grandfather's, and he went on the hill on Valecha, and first witnessed that he had received power to help people. And from there, many years, we grew up together. And also my chair, Rick, Oaye, Isham, my chair, my older brother, Mr. Kuda. We were told about him coming years ago, oyate. We were told that the Vichasha Waka will be coming into our lives. And then we heard that he was born, and I met him in the 1970s, and at the Evergreen Housing. First time I seen my brother, and my aunt Edna, and her husband, Mr. Kudox, and then we had a good visit at Evergreen, and I had some Kumpara brothers, Barabanda brothers. So we were getting ready to go to a sweat lodge. I think that was around 1973 or 4, somewhere around there. And I first met my brother Rick, and he's a young man, and we were all visiting, and he was busy mechanicking, working on a car. Before we left, we heard a commotion. Everybody was running around, and all of the brothers and all the people ran towards the car, and without a jack, they lifted the car, and my brother Rick was under the car. But we knew he was a Wichasha Waka because he didn't even have a scratch on him, no broken bones or anything. So that was my introduction to my Rick. I don't know if he remembers that or not, but that was a long time ago. But today, I wanted to share some stories I've been hearing from my grandfathers, and I thought that this time of the year would be a good time to share the story. So we'll go to oyate tokeca, Lakota oyate. Before Europeans ever came to our country, Lakota and other nations, we have a lot of things in common. We had some laws, that we all have to follow. Waka, before the Tanka was ever brought to our people. Shashasha, Woa Kankawa, Nahankawo, Gehena, which many generations were passed down to some important laws that we all have today, all 500 tribes. We have some prayer laws that we all share together. So, go in the beginning, there were many versions of the creation story. All the creation stories that people share are really beautiful. They make sense and we follow. We believe wholeheartedly. But this one of many was handed down from generations. For 5 generations, the story that I'm sharing with you. A long time ago, the Lakota, I have to remember the stories of tribes. We started out in this oyate, this earth, as one nation. Oyate Wajila, one single nation in the beginning. This nation, the name of the people at that time was unknown. It was not remembered. But over the years, they keep talking about it. And then they came up to the solution that they were to call Peta Waka Oyate. We were all one people, and that was the name of one people. Peta Waka. So, meetings of the sacred man. The story came about when we were all one people, somewhere on the east, which along the east, a man appeared from the Maniwancha, the big waters or ocean. This man appeared from another world, from another nation. They described him as man, his scars on his hands and feet, the signs of wounds. He told the people that he brought a message from his father. He described his father as what we know today as Wakantanka. He told them that his father is the God of all gods, and the loving greater spirit, Yota Waka. Later on, we know him as Wakantanka. The introduction to Wakantanka, the man told the people that the fire is a sacred fire. He represents his father. Nothing shall be greater and stronger than the fire, which the fire is the symbol of God. There are laws to be obeyed around the fire. The fire represents Wakantanka, and the present should be honored at all times. Lakota woppe number 1. Ketaki ohoki la boa. Kuchashta na rikoshke na heche opa. Oyampik on Keta ileke matai. Igloa na wahwa la oha ya onkte hechaba. The fire should be respected all the time for the spirit of fire, including the humans, the word human, or like the fire. What our words that we speak today are like the fire. It can burn and hurt people if we abuse our words. And also at the same time, it can cure and heal the people. And number 2, we watch our words around the fire. The fire represents the father of all beings. Protect and secure. We secure and protect our loved ones at all times. That is the role of the men. Understanding the fire. That still stands today. Woke number 4. Woke keta ileaki no honi. Woche ki heki taku heki and a chetu kala. Which Maniwa Wakam, which introduction of the water and the mother. The man said that the water is his mother. Maniki Woyachi, water represents another and a female nation. We are oyate. There are no other beings, including humans, can live without the water and the blessing of our mothers. In always we don't pick Makaka, Oaye Luta Okolakiciye, Oaye Luta Okolakiciye. The mother blesses us with her sacred water in her womb. Water is medicine. The man gave instructions to the people to gather and pray with the fire and water. The man gave the people, his father, laws and introductions to live as a nation of people. We are instructed to call ourselves a nation, not a race of people, but the nation of the oyate. Oyate we chose. The man disappeared. He left the man laws, he left the people's laws to obey and follow. We should always remember, always remember that there are no greater. There are no gods greater than Wakantanka. Law number 2. Maniki Wakan, or Tokeca, Galoniha, or Wichoni, Kahani Onkdale. Nimo Tokeloniha, Maniki, which is Zania Yonkdale. Law number 3. Always hold the children sacred. Wakanja to Wakampi. Tokata Wakanja, typical. Wana Tokata Oyate, which home is future generations. Remember the sacred rights of the Wakanja. Kawoke. Wakanja had 7 sacred rights. So Tiwahe Ojilohahanta. We keep those laws for all of our children. Law number 4. Always keep the language holy. Abusive for her. Which Law number 5. The water is sacred. Do not replace water with any other beverage to consider wakam. Okay, we go on to the next slide. Always remember, 13 moons of sacred, for each moon has a god. Now we, the purpose in our life. Every moon has a name and a spirit in there. Respect and honor all Wakam beings. Those are the oldest sacred laws that were given to our people. Shortly after these instructions, the man wandered off, never to be seen again. The people lived with these instructions for generations and years. Before anybody, but it was just indigenous nations. After several generations, the people began to forget these laws, and some families drifted off into different areas of the world, the geographical areas. Some did not return to the gatherings as were instructed. Introductions to the tribes. Many years and years went by, and finally, when people came back together, the people, the families found themselves, they had different languages and could not understand each other. They were only able to communicate through spiritual language. Although there are still relatives, the people separated into different parts of the country, different parts of the world. From that day forward, many different tribes were born. The tribes have their own languages, culture, and rituals, tribal names, and identity. So today we have over 500 tribes, but we all have one thing in common today as we speak. Many of the tribes we hold the fire sacred. Every tribe in the nation, language is very sacred. The following the spiritual calendar. Oyate, they live by the moon and they live by a spiritual calendar. To our old calendar, the month of December is called Wanichoka. It is time to gather your families together. Worship the same God. All of this tribe, we still call one God, Waka. The rituals, all of the rituals that we have are all different, but they all end up war on color. All 500 tribes live in peace today. We use a universal language, or English. Without English, life would be difficult for all of us. So respect one another. The virtues and the values of the indigenous lifeways. Without it, the woppe choose a color. When I don't get over now, or Tanka, Chantua Manico, or Heche, Naospe Amani Pixie, Heche. Or Hena, walk, or Githa, Hecha. What is a community wellness? The community wellness comes from the indigenous worldview. Today we are all Lakota. If we structure our communities in a Lakota worldview, we wouldn't have any problems. Today we don't need policemen. We just need each other by walk. Community wellness constitutes the knowledge of one's culture. Each family today, we have our own inner little mini family culture. We respect each other, understand and open. The mindfulness of the origins of the rituals. the history of our ceremonies. Today we apply the history to our daily life. Understand your history. There are many histories written in doctrines, books, stories, but there's also an indigenous history, stories that are told by the elders. Sometimes they contradict each other. Personally, your responsibility to understand your history. Many tribes have their tribal history and ceremony. Lakota na Dakota na Nakota oyate. Ogash Bayamani, the bands of the Teton, have their own history of Wochocha, Waka, the values. What is the Lakota, Dakota, Nakota? We talk about Lakota when I got a lot of grandchildren. One time, one of my grandchildren said, Waka, what is a Lakota? We caught me off guard, almost choked on my food. Wait a minute. What is a Lakota? It's a good question that the children are going to ask. Who are they? Where did we come from? Tokeca. What made them Lakota oyate, the people? Well, that's a good thing to look for. First of all, we're human beings. Everyone has their definition of means to be human. Lakota version of human beings. Oyate. The human being comprises of a circle of holistic principles in our life. We see the medicine wheel represents a human being, the values and the virtues. The circle of life. The life, Lakota Chawicho, Lakota Oyate, Pejuta Migamela. Daku Kapi. The color black represents the West, the spiritual, natural power. As we speak here today, each and every one of our relatives, you may know and you may not know it, but you have tremendous amount of power in your soul, in your spirit. You dreamed, I don't know if any of you ever dreamed about your ancestors, your mom, your dad, or your dreams. Only shows you that you hold inside of your body great amount of power that your mind yourself cannot conceptualize. The directions that are all given to us all have a significance that all come together in our soul and our being. Go on to the next one. Lakota human being, or Lakota Chawichasha. It really means the dignity, honor, peace, a nation of integrity with spirituality, culture, the relationship with all living beings. That's who we are. So I told my Takurla that when he asked me this, you come on, that's good. I got a lot of different grandchildren from different nations. I got 5 daughters. So one of my daughters married Asian, Laotian. I got 3 of them, but taposa, they come from Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam somewhere. They eat with 2 sticks. The youngest one kept looking at me. Pretty soon she couldn't handle this. She said, Kaka, can I ask you something? I said, go ahead. How come you like to push and shit when you eat? How come you like to make faces when you eat? I don't have any teeth. That's why I'm like that. But the kids really pick on things. They pick up everything. They're really sensitive, highly sensitive children. Our children learn from us. Every little thing that you've done, your children know it, and they're going to do it someday. Usually, the children on their own, they'll go to the prayer. Someday the children are going to do exactly what you have done. The teachings of the spirit world, oyate makoche, which are oyate, oyate, which are oyate, uhipka, wahutopa, nawakupa, was the old makaka. Our relatives came with us, the 4-legged and the winged people. As human beings, we just only manifested in this world, and we unmanifest at some point. Lakota, we don't believe in death. We don't even when our relatives die, we always say, hey, kigalel, ichimane kigalel. And now I see a lot of children here. They always say we manifested and unmanifested in the world. So we go to the next slide. Lakota oyate. They didn't come to us at the same time. Over the years, throughout the history, our ceremonies came to us one at a time. Okay, first one we know now, tokeca. Now we know the water is sacred. That's why our people kept saying, Maniki Waka, Wanaketa Waka. The things that we pray with. Okay, 1450, approximately around there, and to this day, many people use the sweat lodge. After that, at some point, about 100 years later, the second ritual came, Hamalecha. Well, Hamalecha really means that you believe in your dreams. Every one of us have dreams at some point. That meant that your spirit is working. You're still alive. Everybody, like I said earlier, everybody is a special being. The Washichu world, the Western world that we live in, took those knowledges away from us. Okay, we walk with low self-esteem or no self-esteem at all. The self-worth, we live in a different Wichongta. Well, Hamalecha is a very important part of our Chewichasha, our Gantuichasha. Without fear, without any doubts of your personal life, we see guidance from the Creator. The Hunkapi, making our relatives. There's a whole story about making a relatives. What really Honka means paint. The paint, that's what it means. Paint. The symbol of every one of us have your own spiritual color and belief, or a spiritual being. Oyate Okolakiciye, what makes us nation different from any other nation. All of the indigenous nations throughout the 500 tribes, we also have belief in tokeca, the tattoo. The concept of tattooing came from indigenous people. But we don't just tattoo Mickey Mouse or different things on our body. We tattoo the symbol of our dreams and our spiritual being. Our people started the concept of tattoo. Red paint. When you adopt a relative, whether that person is a white man or a different nation, when you put the paint on that, you are more relative. That person is deeper than your blood relative. That's why we were called nation. There's so many versions of Tanka. When the warrior goes to the war, you put certain paint on you. What doesn't happen to you in time of war is the paint. You don't get PTSD in the chain of war. It prevents you from having struggles. Our people never experience historical trauma. Our people never ever historic about anxiety or depression when those things were fairly new to our people. Only until recently, around 1950s, we experienced mental health disorders. The Lakota language is the foundation of our well-being, our healing, Pejuta. Whenever you suffer from sadness or your broken spirit or loss of loved ones, our people, they paint themselves and they sing to themselves and talk to yourself in Lakota. The broken spirit of your body will heal itself immediately. 1600s to the present time, that information is very important to our people. We believe that our kachan doesn't belong to us. It's the inner beings that is yours forever. God will never take that inner being away from you. Forever. Your inner being will still live forever. You will come back into the time in another way. The fourth ceremony is Ishnati Mani Ishnati Alichalong, the wiping of the Ishtam and the Vichapi Pakintapi. The wiping, those two go together, Ukala Papi and the wiping of the tears. What really wiping of the tears, Lakotia Luiaska Hanta, Yashtayo. When a person loses loved ones and child money, Hanta, Oyate Gluwaskaka Pi Kte. That's what it means. It's really important. The wiping of the tears is part of your life. Anybody can conduct these ceremonies. The families, the mothers, the grandmas. We go to the next one, the fifth. and then we go to the Oaye Ishnanchi. Oaye Luta Okolakiciye. Before the Chanumba was ever born, before all these ceremonies, oyate, we consider the Oaye as the god. Chanumba, the reason why they did that a long time ago was our people, some female nation, another god was given to that woman now. Another woppe, which are the spirit came to the woman, placed inside the female. Or many the womb, or womb. And now that makes the womb, that spirit takes care of the woman every day, every night, 24/7. Womb is a spirit itself taking care, cleansing the woman's body, cleansing, filterizing the blood, and certain part of the moon, it drains. Fresh blood. That makes the human being, a female, really a special human being. The power, the woman have their own ritual. That's why they call it Ishnanchi. When you're on your moon, back in the old days, you live by yourself. You don't cook. You never cook. And you don't touch things because your energy will overpower all things that are Waka. Your power is in a different, you check your own power. The Washicha way of life that we live makes that a personal thing, and women make you feel bad about themselves. They don't want to talk about it. They think it's dirty and stuff, Lakota from 1700s, the woman has a power, that still stands today. Around the 1700s, the ritual, today, every school in our Indian country, the high school girls, the ones that have our moon, the women, they should have had that today in our schools. Why not right about this time? They gather the girls together. We honor the children. That means that they understood the values and the virtues of these ways. The circle of people, whoever catches that ball, the giveaways, they do that until all the giveaways are finished. They put a feather on them, and which symbolizes that they went through the throwing of the ball. Right. There are women today in our world that still carry that ritual, and they're very valuable. We need to learn from them, continue to honor our women. We didn't do that, so that's why we hear a lot of women missing and murder and all that stuff. If the women knew that they were sacred, that would never happen to our people. 1750, the seventh ritual is Wiwambachi. Today, that ceremony has come back to our life. Many ceremonies in Indian country, and they're all good. It's a good way, the happiness that came to our nation. Whether it's a real small Sundance or a big Sundance, they're all good. Right around that same time that Chanumba was brought to our people, the buffalo calf pipe was brought to a family, certain family, Uchakai. And their job, the family, the purpose of the pipe was to pray for the future generation. That means that you got to pray for the children. And then uphold the peacefulness. Those are the two things why they brought that pipe. Those are the ceremonies. The things that belong to us, the virtues. How did these values came to our people? Before 1450, the Lakota lived in large homes. A tiuktampi or tipi. They're made out of willows and barks. Other tribes call this the long houses, the long homes. An old picture of what was the Lakota home at one time. Tiuktampi symbolizes what we use now today, the sweat lodge. Inipi or tipi. Every one of those willows tell you a story. The one by the door, Vichashawa, Hecha Makata in the Tokeca Yekash, on Petrojil Makata Tigidis. Now your mom, no matter what, she's gonna grow up there, elder, the other ones represent the kin of the Ate, Lekshi, Toy, Uchi, same way with the other ones. And the little willows that go around her that meant our children hold us together. This is the holy temple of our indigenous people. The large homes were present, represents the Inipia. Large represents the female oyate. The sovereignty of the Indian nations depends on the independence of the home. And honey, according to our people, when we say sovereignty, igluha, near the gluha, near the tokeca, or around 1450, Lakota teachings, we are very humble in your heart. A woman had a vision and given instructions to build a oyate, a healthy families to live on earth. Which seven gods came to see her one night on the spirit world. These men had names. The first man's name was Woche walks with prayer. Second, Vichasha's name was Wachonte Oganake, generosity keeper. Vichasha Uchiamani, or the third one was Gluhamani. The fourth man works up it. Vichasha Sapa, Choncha, Vithawa, wisdom keeper. The fifth man's name was Orchante Tinza. Vichasha Tha, Navikoshki, Toha, Tante Wart is a Yohapa Tahechi. And Nakija Oihanke Waniji died, the bravery of our people. The sixth man, the Gluha money, or the Gluha Niha. We honor everybody, our moms, our children, our earth. The seventh, respectfulness. Each man told a woman that they're her guide to build a sovereign home and a nation. We told her the Lord. Each man offered a woman the wheel. Or the ceremony, no matter what conditions we pray, happens to us, or ceremonies help the human being. Or these ceremonies will give guidance, bring humans closer to our country. The second one, second slide, the next slide. Second man told the gifts. We didn't realize that every person in this room, these values are still in our soul. And not only soul acceptance, understanding. Waka is a clap. Waka is a chola. Dagani loha oyakish. Wowichala on kithawabi. The belief of ours. Makoche nawoyuha. Dakuloha and not there is no connection to us, the values of the earthly beings. Do we fight over land nowadays? We fight over property. In a way, we're not going to take those with us. And now it's just, we kind of wander off into the illusional world once in a while as human beings, where these values keep us. Sacrifice, strong mental. the fourth man offered woppe. Everybody was born with intelligence. There's nobody greater than the other. I learned a lot of good things next door the last couple of days. Just I learned some things I didn't know, which we all share a knowledge together. We must learn to educate our people. Every one of us in this room didn't realize that we're a teacher. Everyone, you are a teacher, a great teacher. Your children are learning from you. Whether it's bad teachings or good teachings, you're still a teacher. There was a time when our people lived without fear. Right. We call Pegalapi, Naham Kot Papi, and Awanich. You have some teachings that we show. Being honorable, bravery. 6 men offered honorable for oneself. We show you in Itawa. Daku Heki Hanoke. We jump here, we don't do up to it. Oh, we jump here, we jump to it. The truthfulness sometimes is not very comfortable when you hear it. Respect. The 7th men offered self-respect and self-worth, respecting others, respecting themselves. Those are the values. What she was taught, she turned them around and came up with the first teepee. Teepee had hive. The hive was the first teepee. Each member of the family carries a hive, poles, pegs as they travel. Lakota oyate lineage tea. The word tea is sacred to all of us. And the tea means the soul of the body. Tipi, Tiwahe, Tioshba, which oyate, Tanka, Tawichok, and oyate Akanyu, model of our community. Canada, Kichokanta, Nawia, Nawichasha, and Nawichasha, and now Ohomani, Chakuya. Like I said earlier, there's different versions of our model in our communities throughout the history. The Black Hills, there was a trail around the Black Hills, and I've heard different versions. And so I asked my grandfather, Sam, and his grandfather's name was Woppe Chips. He had a kola named Crazy Horse. They were friends. And Woppe made a medicine for Crazy Horse to be a successful warrior. At that time, the generations of Crazy Horse and people like him, they made a trail around the Black Hills. And they call that Abichi Dal Kachangu, the trail of the guardians, the soldiers. They patrol that trail because, our people needed to be protected in the Black Hills. It had many versions in it. When a young boy becomes a man, they take him on that trail. There's so many stops. Each one, people teach that boy about what it is to be a manhood. When they complete that whole circle, that young man is considered Vichasha, a warrior. Then it's an educational journey for our people at one time. Or shall we go to the next one? The teepee, the high teepee era, 1450s to 1850. Lakota lived in high teepees. We move according to the buffalo's roams. You come from 1850s to 1860, government. We all know that the government potentially killed the buffaloes. The treaty obligations require the government to issue canvas teepees to our people. Tanka, we talked to Han, Kahawa Nichi, Chunke, Oaye, Mnekoha, Oahe, teepee the Chunke Wichaka. The canvas teepees were introduced to the tribes. Then we come up with more poles. The destruction of the Lakota way of life. Every buffalo killed is an Indian gone, Washington. I think we've seen this picture many times, the buffalo skulls. 5,000 buffaloes killed daily at one time. And then around 1890s to the early 1900s, the government came back again and issued wall tents to the oyate. They gave us tents. Some bigger families call it Oaye Topa. Oaye Shakwe, the lines of the canvas. Some have big tents, some have small tents. So even during the early times, 1900s to 1960s, log homes. Those are homes on the reservations. Lakota sovereignty depended on the home and family virtues. People lived on gardenings and raising animals, you have cellars, ceremonies. So Lakota word for sovereignty is Tiwahe, Tioshpa, Ye Gluwaskaka. These 7-star dipper represents these teachings that I just shared with you. The 7 laws, the 7 generations. Whoa, okay. Our people from the early 1800s to the 1900s, they made contact with other nations in oyate. They call it Agatushni oyate. Nowadays, people call them spirits, an English version. But our people said Agatushni. 1860s, 1880s to 1960s, the government banned our teachings. They're still trying to keep us from learning our language and the way of life. The purpose of the government at that time was to Americanize us. They want us to learn English. The schools that our people were sent. It only went from 1st grade to 5th grade. And that means that you completed the high school, the required schools. So our ancestors obeyed the law all the way up until 1900s. All of our ancestors that went to school have completed their education. 5th grade, you're considered a graduate from school. Well, the next thing that happened to our people was they removed our people from the reservation. California, Chicago, and this removal act. To this day, most of the families still live in the California cities. They made the best of it. Some people still maintain their language and culture too. The new era today of life resurfaced. Came back, resurfaced through different ways. The old living conditions, the global community, the rebirth of the new generation. We still consider it sacred. It's very powerful. White man might own it, but it's still sacred to us. When I say white people, I want my white relatives not to be offended. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about federal policy, which you don't have to do that. Our sacred sites are still here. today, woppe, Tanka, oyate, places to pray. Woppe, Kte, oyate, we're related to them. But post-colonialism amongst oyate, 1920s to today, we told how some tokeca. When the government brought new housing to our people, they said it's better housing for better people. New houses are built on tribal-owned lands and communities. The houses are owned by the tribal government. The United States government, through the Department of Interior, they created housing authorities. Lakota families move away from their own lands into communities. Low rent housing. Lakota families. The thing about it is we don't own them homes. Lakotas, and they said the tribe owns it, but really, in reality, the government owns them. The Lakota people living in the housing on the reservations, we pay rent to the government. We don't own it. If you don't pay rent, they'll kick you out. So around 85% of the people, technically, we're still homeless in our own country. Lakota are semi-homeless in their own country. The education system was not culturally relevant. Our first language used to be Lakota. Won't speak Oaye. Our first language, our children, the first language is English, which is the other way around now. When they hear us talk Lakota to them, they immediately in their consciousness, they have to reinterpret it back into English to understand what we just said. The welfare system is very low. Oyate, ahoy chaki kosh. Ochake, oyate, Daku var chicken on each other. Now, we told that one of the grandpas back in the old days, 1940s, his Akantishni friends came and told, there's two things that are going to destroy you as people. Substance abuse and the bad words from us. Those two things will destroy us. And it happened. Up until from the 1950s, we've experienced depression or disorder amongst our people, Lakota, young people, suicide, families, murder, prison. 7 out of 10 people are suffering from depression on a daily basis today. Mental illness is really high amongst our children. Loss of language and the woe. The good thing about our country during the 1980s to present times, it's changing around. More young generations are seeking tribal history, the rebirth of their tribal language. Oaye Luta Okolakiciye. More treatment centers are coming around. The 7 reservations within the tribal communities. What's a good thing about it is 70% of the tribal members in each reservation achieved at least 4 years of college. 50% maintained master's degrees. 20% left the reservation to seek doctorate degrees. Our people are kind of reborning themselves, reinventing themselves. Across the country, in North America, average 80% of Native Americans have successfully achieved the higher education. And some are still going back to school. Indigenous culture is becoming the interest of our young people. There's positive events happening all over the country. Our oyate are coming back on their own, like the buffalo. Lakota, the oyate, Lakota, Lakota language is very sacred. Aku gap yanahich. A person is suffering from mental illness, whether it's mental, emotional, or physical health. Nitawachik da la kotia wochik in a wonichik lakiki. Little hanka anichis. You can try it anytime. You're welcome to speak Lakota to yourself if you're going through depression. Or you speak to your inner being of Lakota, you'll come back. Or somewhere along the line, our people are going to wake up now. The people will return. I witnessed that in this generation, a lot of my people in this room and all across the Indian country, they're seeking. They're not afraid to go to prayer. They're not afraid to go to school. They're not afraid to live that cultural life. And they've received higher education. So our ancestors are really proud, you know, you can live still in both worlds. Oyate, we told you, it is our responsibility today to make a way of life. That's what I thought we were going to talk about next door, Chawahi. It's time to roll up your sleeves and reinvent a new way of life for us. We're not doing the future. A new way of life has to continue for our people. But still have your ceremonies and still live in the modern world today. Some of the things that I'm sharing with you today, I learned it from these people that I've listed. I didn't, put all these credits to that. Some of them are not around anymore. Ida Little Thunder was a grandma of mine that passed away back in the 60s. Alice Lillout and Winnie Ironwood, Grandma Outlooks back, Jake Little Thunder, Joe Ashley, Joe Chips, Albert Ellis Hardships. The list goes on. But what I can put on, I just gave them the credit, the stories. I say woppe to them for sharing those with us. Some of these stories I learned from my father. He passed away in 1991. My grandfather, Samuel Chips, he died in 1973. His father is James Moosecamp. He died in 1949. He's standing on the right side. And Hardships died in 1946. And the great-great-grandfather, Oaye Luta, he died in 1916. Him and his wife. So that's what I wanted to share with you this morning about the laws of our people. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Lexi. We appreciate you sharing that education with us. It's a key framework for living in harmony as Lakotas.